Fairy Tail is back, and it happened again. We had a super short fight. This one was, once again, half a chapter. Normally I talk about the chapter in order, but I'm just going to skip straight to this part because it's the most relevant part. And it's really just beginning to disappoint me at this point. I'm not angry, I'm just tired. Gajeel begins laughing because he starts to think to himself about the fact that they're fighting on Alderaan again, and he got to fight Alderaan last time when he became a giant, and he mentions that he wants to tell that story to his kid one day, because that'd be really cool to say that, hey, son, I turned into a giant and then fought a giant dragon larger than a mountain. Midnight is actually surprised to hear that Gajeel's married, but then Gajeel's like, well, technically we're not married yet, but we're working on that. Which I find to be kind of weird, because you would think that as soon as he found out that Levy was pregnant, that the two would actually get married. But I suppose they would like to have the big wedding with everyone there, and Levy would probably want Lucy to be her maid of honor, so most likely they're probably waiting until the 100 Years Quest is over, and then they can have their big celebration. Now, both Midnight and Zero actually have a very positive reaction to Gajeel's statement. Now, I understand Midnight because he's become good now. I was surprised by Zero's response, but no, Zero's response makes sense, because we actually get Zero's backstory with this, and the man actually likes kids, and he actually likes being a father, and so the fact that Gajeel is happy to be a father is actually something that Zero can respect. It's like the only thing Zero actually can respect, other than destruction. But of course, destruction wins out for Zero over children. We know this because when Gajeel says, you don't have to always destroy things, you could fight to protect, why not just turn over a new leaf? And Zero's response is, no, nothing's more important than destruction. I'm going to blow you to pieces, I'm going to give those pieces to your wife, and then I'm going to blow her to pieces. Obviously, threatening to kill Levy causes Gajeel to snap a bit, but this actually makes Zero happy because he's finally able to see those eyes that he's been waiting to see, which are the eyes of Gajeel back in Phantom Lord. The eyes of a destroyer. Gajeel rejects this outright, saying that he's changed from who he once was, but Zero says no. Anyone who experiences the joy of destroying can never go back, and he just pile drives Gajeel's head into the ground. And that's when we see Zero's backstory, where he was a normal father in a normal village. He had 5 kids, he apparently recently lost his wife, and he promised her to protect his kids. Unfortunately, while his back was turned, bandits showed up, and they massacred all of his children. In fact, it was so horrific that the other townspeople tried to prevent him from seeing the remains of his children, but he refused. He had to see what happened to his kids, and what he saw broke him. In fact, it was such a brutal butchering that all that was left of one of his kids were their hands. He apparently, after this, learned his destruction magic, and then went off and killed the bandits. And he made sure to get his revenge good and plenty, because he didn't just kill them, he made sure they suffered before they died. But after he did this, he got a taste for destruction and killing, and it just continued to escalate, where eventually he decided he wanted to destroy the entire world. He had a desire to reduce everything to zero. But before he completely became Zero, and he still had a sense of his old self, that is when he found the 5 children that would later become Horatio Sace. And as I said, he has a soft spot for children, especially these 5, because Midnight and the others all had enough magic power to seal away that part of him. Split his personality into 2, where he could be in control as Brain, and have Zero sealed away so he doesn't have to go on destructive rampages anymore. We then come back to the modern day, and Zero realizes the blood that's soaking Gajeel's head is actually his own. His hand is bleeding because Gajeel turned his hair into metal to protect himself from Zero's strike. Gajeel then knocks Zero back and declares that it is possible to change. And then once he resolved to be a parent, he no longer had the desire to destroy anything, because he wanted to create a future for his child. And then Gajeel does an upgraded version of an old move of his. Gajeel all the time transforms his arms into swords. This is a pretty standard thing he does. This time, he infused both of his arms into one sword. So he somehow has the ability to merge his arms together into a weapon. And this, I guess you say, ultimate sword of his is what he uses to finish off Zero. Now, I am completely unclear if this is actually what finishes off Zero, because we don't see him turn into a book. Then again, he never started out as a book. He was a man to begin with. Ferris just recruited him. But early in the chapter, they put evidences on the fact that all the other demons turned into books when they lost. So maybe the fight isn't over, or maybe I'm just being optimistic. I'm not sure. But as Zero is falling down, Gajeel tells him that he can always just change again. So he's still trying to convince Zero to stop being a psycho. And I understand why Gajeel is being this way. Like, most of the Fairy Tail members don't really show mercy to their enemies. They just take them out, and that's it, and then they'll move on. If they turn good, that's great. Otherwise, just move on. but Gajiel's actively trying to make Zero a better man, and that is simply because Gajiel was in the same place he was. Makarov and Juvia, a little bit, gave Gajiel a second chance, so it's completely fair to think that Gajiel wants to do the same for Zero, or for anyone. But I just don't see that for Zero. I don't see him regaining his humanity. He's fully given up on it. As for the beginning of the chapter, it's really nothing special. It's literally where we were left off, where Loxus is talking with everyone else. In fact, it kind of feels like a simple recap of the last chapter, because they're just having the same conversation again, honestly. And so, once again, he plans on warping to Alderaan. That's it. Same exact thing that happened in the last chapter. Like I said, it's just a recap, basically. But yeah, that was the chapter. Hopefully Zero is still standing, but if not, well, that means basically all the demon fights are over. And I guess that also means we're just gonna immediately get to the 5 dragons that were resurrected. It'd be nice if their fights were, a little bit longer, 3 chapters at least each. But the way things are going, they're probably each gonna be like half a chapter. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give a thumbs up so you enjoy more Fair Anime things. Thank you, and have a great day.